that's one thing that stands out about us, that we are a real business. We're business for profit. This is not charity. If anything, we are a premium cleaning company and offer a premium cleaning service. And so therefore the standard is high, and my employees, regardless of who they are, they have to meet that. And I don't coddle. We do provide, I believe, an environment in which not just them, but especially them, feel safe. We also mentor and help educate people on what autism is. If you've met one person, you've met one person.
Hello, this is Rita, and this is me and my mommy's podcast, and then my mommy, and there's me, and I'm just talking about this stuff, and there's me tap dancing, because this is the Tap Dancing / Autism podcast, and there's a bunch of animals, and I'll be trying to eat my hair, and there's a bunch of sand in the ocean. Also, there's all the soul talk stuff. I love all my mentors and relatives. And also, yes, like life stuff and tap dancing. Oh, and also there's my boots. My boots are amazing. Also, there's me, trying not to have a panic attack. Also, this is a podcast about me, autism, and tap dancing, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just ADHD in this thing. Also, there's my cute, adorable puppies.
Lita, do you want to do your thingy and introduce the podcast?
That's my mom. I am Lita. That's the person that complimented my bracelet.
That is her introduction currently. Welcome to this week's Lita's Tap Styles. We are so excited to have Janet on today. She started a cleaning company, and my brain is totally spacing. It's Blue Jay, right?
Blue Jay, BLUE hyphen the letter J, no reference to the bird.
Janet, I am terrible at introducing our guest. I sound like a robot, and that is not what anyone wants to listen to. Do you mind introducing yourself to our audience like you're meeting them at a coffee shop for the first time?
All right, hello, my name is Janet Shultz. I live in North Carolina. I have 2 grandchildren and 2 adult children who live close by. So that's good. I get to see them. I have 2 cats, and I'm a special education teacher and an entrepreneur.
We wanted to have you on the program today because you created in your entrepreneurship a company that hires autistic people, and or from what it sounds like, you're not really treating them any differently than their neurotypical counterparts. You're holding them to standards and all that. If what we said during our pre-interview is correct.
That is right. Very true.
Finding people who do that is kind of an oddity. Most of the places that say we hire autistic people aren't allowing them to grow in their career. So I really wanted to hear the entire story, our audience to hear too, the story behind Blue Jay Cleaning Solutions, and how it came about and what you guys do.
All right. It's all started back in 2012 when I found myself in a situation where I was forced to go back into the workforce. And having had a taste of being an entrepreneur in my husband's construction company, I recognized a lot of my skill set. And so thinking about going back into the classroom was just not an option for me. So I had that entrepreneur spirit in me. I have pretty much all my adult life. And being a single mom, the first large part of my life, I taught school and I cleaned houses on the side. So I was good at cleaning. I not necessarily enjoy cleaning, but I'm good at it. And I love having my own business. And so I don't recommend others to do that. What I did, I started my business out of trauma. And so here I am. And I started reaching out to my friends, you're letting them know that I was in need, or they just kind of read between the lines. They could tell and rallied around me in support, and I grew very fast. I could no longer do the work myself. And going back to the name Blue Jay, blue at the time stood for, it was synonymous with clean, but now I know that it's because of the color of Blue Jay the blue autism awareness is blue. And Jay's for Janet has nothing to do with the bird. It has to do with that's my name. So that has a story behind it too. So I no longer could do the work myself, and I needed to bring people along to help me. I did that for a year or so, and out of mere just frustration, I had developed just in the very beginning. I'm a very detail oriented person, and my business is fashioned after my personality. I think all businesses are fashioned after their owner's personality. I'm sure Lita can say the same thing. And so I found that it was difficult to find people who were clean to a process. I have broken it down into steps. I wanted it done a certain way that would be on time, that I could depend on to carry out the work, that had a strong work ethic for the most part. And having been a special education teacher for many years, I gravitated to people that had autism, and they in turn gravitated to me. We just seemed to get each other. And so I began and just cried out in just frustration from having people not show up, not doing it like I wanted to, or having to redo their work, getting complaints. So I just cried out and just, where are my employees? Where are they? They had to be out there somewhere. And which is a problem I know for all business owners is finding people to work, you know? So I'm not unique in that. But what is unique is the answer that I received back after posing that question is look at people on the spectrum. And that was 10 years ago. Because I consequently sold the business 3 years ago, the first one. So I just began to explore. I didn't want to just jump off the bandwagon and start doing that. I needed to make sure that this made sense. And so I began to talk to people that were in that world because I had long since been out of the educational world. And a lady from Autism Speaks that I knew, she mentioned to me then, she said, Janet, you're going to see more and more companies like yours. And at that particular time, I had decided I was going to start doing that, hiring people with autism. And she said, because they graduated through the system and now they're at home and they can't find a job. They are unemployable. I mean, they are very employable, but they face a high unemployment rate. So they're at risk there. And so I just decided to start doing that. And she said, now, a lot of businesses, there's a car wash in Florida. I think it's still running, but it's a nonprofit. You know, there are coffee shops, but they're nonprofit. So it's very rare to find a social enterprise out there, a business for profit, but addressing a social need. And the social need that we address is the high unemployment rate of those on the spectrum. We're trying to combat that through this business model. So I did, and I haven't looked back. Now, predominantly, we do. I opened it up to those. And it's not just for people with autism. Anyone, for lack of a better word, with a disability can apply. But they have to go through a rigorous job shadowing interview. At least, usually I can tell in the first job shadow whether or not they have what it takes and mature enough to handle a job. They have to be at least have graduated from high school. and have to be able, how well do they take instruction? How well do they seem to work with a team? And we've got very inspiring stories that I can share when it's appropriate.
I definitely want to hear the stories. I want to circle back to the job shadowing interviews. I know Lita is running a nonprofit dance studio, and we went nonprofit so we could keep our prices down for our students. Mainly because we are taking out of the therapy world where that max is. And I know a lot of traditional studios are starting to have 20 to 35 kids in a class. I'm not sure I'd want 20 to 35 neurotypical kids running around in a class. I am not doing that with autistic preschoolers.
Right.
But even our neurotypical, because we have hired neurotypical staffers, they've got to come in and make sure they are fit with what we're doing and with understanding how it works, which it kind of sounds like that's what those job interviews were, which I think is starting to become more and more popular within even the traditional hiring world, is come in and make sure you fit this job.
Right. Right. And because, they're not always good at the communication aspect of having a sit down interview. So therefore, I felt like job shadowing was the best approach. It made
I-
sense.
I've had some on my other side on the office work where it's like, I kind of wish we'd had job shadowing for you, even though you're neurotypical, because you do not fit this position at all.
Right. It just makes sense. It really does.
But like we have a 90-day, temporary deal where I can go, hey, are you sure this was the job for you? And that was something that interested me because a lot of those autistic nonprofits just hire you no matter what, even if you're not a fit for the job. And if you're not a fit for the job, whether you be autistic or neurotypical, it makes everyone's life more difficult.
Right. And I agree with you. That's one thing that stands out about us, that we are a real business. We're a business for profit. This is not charity. If anything, we are a premium cleaning company and offer a premium cleaning service. And so therefore the standard is high, and my employees, regardless of who they are, they have to meet that. And I don't coddle. We do provide, I believe, an environment in which not just them, but especially them, feel safe. We also mentor and help educate people on what autism is. If you've met one person, you've met one person. But, a lot of my, mm, I've had to fire people on the spectrum that because they're not ready. They socially or behaviorally, they're not ready. And sometimes because of the fact that the parents, and we butted heads, because I don't coddle. I believe that failure is not a dirty word, and that we learn from our failures and mistakes, and that they have room to grow. They have room to fail. And it's a privilege. I'm not going to deny them the right to make mistakes and to fail. I felt like I was raising men. For the most part, most of them were men, but I do feel very strongly about, are we preparing appropriately our young adults for the workplace? What are employers looking for? They're looking for people that don't have to hold their hand, and that they can be independent. They can learn the job and do the job. I feel like that oftentimes in the system, our young adults, starting as their children, become cue dependent. and they're not allowed that freedom to problems. They're waiting for that next cue. What do I do next? But when all of that is taken away, I mean, it's just wonderful to see how it's there all along. It's just been stifled. And to me, that's just a shame and unfair. I expect of them, and they never disappoint me.
That was what drew me to interviewing you, especially after our first pre-interview, was that you are making them rise to the challenge. You're not like with our Lita's dance studio, we're not doing adaptive dance. We're adapting how we're teaching the dance, but they're still learning first, second, third, fourth, plie. We've got nonverbal kids that will go into first the moment we say first. Because we're making them rise to the challenge. And their parents are like, oh my God, they can do this. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this while they're little.
That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
And some of our dancers may never be able to leave because, I mean, level 3 autism is a totally different thing than level 1 or level 2. But let's let them rise to the challenge where they can rise to the challenge, which sounds like what you were doing with Blue Jay.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, my first hire was Eric, and he was sitting at home. He didn't say much. Eric did not say much. But I tell you what, there was a lot going on up here that people did not give him credit for. And he became a team leader. If Eric was on the job, I did not have to worry. I trusted Eric over is it neurodivergent? Is that what you and I, if we don't have autism, what is that? Neurotypical?
Neurotypical is, but I was diagnosed as a kid with autism, so I'm on the neurodivergency.
Okay.
But there's also an argument within everyone on using neurotypical. It's arguments all the time.
Yeah. But anyway, you get my point.
The point, yeah.
Yeah. And so Eric I would give him in charge of the keys. And sometimes those keys, I ring the keys he would have would be, fairly large and heavy, but he would be the keeper of the keys and dare anyone try to take those keys from Eric. He took that task and responsibility very seriously. And so one day, Eric's mother, she got down with cancer, and she was no longer able to take him to and from work. So I stepped in and did that. Well, this particular day, I don't know what happened, but I wasn't able to take him to work, and he had no ride. So unbeknownst to anyone, Eric got on the computer at home, looked it up, the bus route that he was to take, that he needed to take, and he had to do, a few exchanges in order to get from his house to the job site. And Eric also had the vacuum cleaner with him to take. And so I guess when Eric got to his job, I don't know, and I found out it was there, I said, Eric, how did you get to work? He said, I took the bus. I said, how about the vacuum? I took it with me. My point is this, Amanda, that he was faced with a problem. He wanted to go to work. He took that very, very seriously. And he made it happen for himself to get there. That was a shock to people that were around Eric, his family, that he could navigate the computer, figure out the routes. Eric was not ignorant. Eric was just not given a lot of opportunities to show just how much he could do, just how much he could accomplish. And that's one of the stories. And that's why I expect, this is how my approach is. I expect you can until you prove me otherwise. I'm going to ask you to unless you prove me that you can't. in my communication, I send text. That's generally the best way to communicate with them. And especially my nonverbal uh, employee who still works at Blue Jay today. And I send him a text expecting him to understand what I'm sending and respond back appropriately, and he does. And we've been doing that for years. So it's just been an inspiring experience for me to just watch people grow, to give them an opportunity to just grow. And we have several that have, by and large, every single one that have come through Blue Jay. That was their first job. They came with no experience, but we gave them on the job training. They passed, you know, the interview process. Not everybody does. And that's hard because for people to understand, like you said, because, well, everybody gets a prize, No, that's not the real world, you know? And maybe come back later in a few years when you've matured and your parents have matured. Um, but, um, but several have gone on to their dream jobs. I told you in the pre-interview that, Adam, he gained so much confidence that he got his license to drive, and he would drive other team members to jobs. He became a team leader. Adam now works for Federal Express. Javier, he now works for a company he's been working for several years. His first job. He had a hard time in the beginning, and his mother, because I would constructively offer criticism, while he was on the job, and he didn't take it very well, nor did his mother. And so we worked through all that, and as Javier grew, and his mother even became an employee of mine, she confessed and that I was right, that they had to be held to a high standard, and I wasn't going to lower it, and I'm not going to coddle. And he even wrote me a few years back a thank you note because I helped prepare him, being a part of Blue Jay, helped prepare him for the real world. And Blue Jay is like a safe place for them, a cocoon that they are allowed to grow. And he can springboard into the real world and where he is today, have a job that he's making good money at.
That was one of the other things that drew me to your story is I'm assuming some of your staffers stay, obviously, just realize cleaning is what they love and what they're going to do. But you have so many stories of them going and working at, businesses that are not necessarily going to have the same accommodations. Should they have the same accommodations? Yes, legally they should. But you prepared them to work in a world that doesn't necessarily have those accommodations. And that sounds like totally amazing to me.
Well, and I didn't offer any accommodations. They didn't need any. We were just so free. You get the job done. Now, the accommodations would be that they would understand that now this job is probably going to take you long to do than it does me. And that's just the nature of it. There's my employees I found were so detailed that they can get lost in the details. But they understood that this job only pays you for this amount of time because that I always quoted jobs on how fast it would take me. And I am not fast. Okay. I take my time. So it was a very realistic time frame.
But you did say an You said an accommodation. I don't think you knew you said. You said you texted them because that's what they needed for your nonverbal kids. That's an accommodation.
Okay, well, I didn't think of it. See, I didn't think of it like that. I just realized that's how they communicate. That was the
Yeah.
best means of communication. I did not realize that, Amanda.
That
Um,
isn't it. That's where I'm like, you prepared them because I will tell you there are some employers that are like, no, you will communicate with how I communicate and you will not deviate from this communication.
well, thank you for bringing that up because that's just something I assume. That I assume. That what I did is I asked them, and that's what I found. I'm not going to just assume that this is the best way for you. And I want people to do that to me. I do that today with my students. Is this the best way for me to present this? What you tell me because you know yourself. So I really encourage that, communication.
I kind of
But
wonder if you put,
yeah,
no, because when you were like, we didn't give accommodations, I'm like, Janet, you were. I just don't think, like, even when you were saying Eric's mom got cancer and you took him to the job site, that's an
yeah.
accommodation.
No, I don't see it that way. Very interesting.
Most of these accommodations, like we've talked to people, Lita's autistic. She doesn't like looking people in the eyes. That's an accommodation we give in our dance studio is you do not have to look teachers in the eye.
Right.
A lot of accommodations shouldn't be considered accommodations.
It's just it's about self-respect or understanding one another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to say something, don't you, kiddo?
Human beings are weird. Apparently, you can cross lines.
But yeah, no, a lot of companies will not communicate with their employees the way their employees need them to communicate.
Interesting. And that's interesting. Very interesting that you would bring that out.
A lot of the accommodations that are needed are not massive accommodations. They're not, hey, give me a gazillion more hours to do this job. It's text me. Lita prefers the voice notes versus text when people are trying to get a hold of her. And that's an accommodation, which it's like that. Most people wouldn't think that's an accommodation. They just think that's being respectful of another human being.
Right. And that brings me to think about something that I do try to teach. We did is to how to self-advocate for yourself. And so self-advocacy is key because we have to understand that by and large, employers do not understand how to communicate or relate to a person with autism or another disability or whatever you want to call it. So I think we need to be responsible for our own self and advocate for ourselves on this is the best way to communicate with me. Would you consider this as a way or alternative because I would be able to accept that better. So I think that's really, we need to teach our young people how to do that for themselves. What do you think,
Probably,
Amanda?
yeah, we definitely do. And I think we probably need to teach it across the board. I think when Lita was younger, that advocacy definitely had to come from mom because adults don't listen to children as well.
Right.
But now that she's getting older, it's like, no, you can advocate for yourself, preferably without the teenage sass sometimes. She's a teenager.
Definitely. It would be received a lot better.
Okay, if it's the only way human beings that won't listen to me, I'm gonna use it. But still, unfortunately, I can't use curse words even though I know curse words.
She is definitely teenager. But yeah, no, that was one of the things that really drew me to the story as well, is you do teach self-advocacy, which is something that we are not teaching. It's usually just fall in line, fall in line, fall in line. And then once almost all the programs end at 18, you're not, unless you are level 3 and going to day center for most of the day while your parents are at work. There's nothing for level 1 and level 2 that continues into the workforce.
I know. And here they can stay till they're 21, at certain levels. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I prefer to work with my autistic guys over anyone else. I really did. Mm. They don't, and I told, they just, and I can't put everybody in a box. Not, you know, and, they can rise to be the owner of the company. I mean, they can own their own business. Being an entrepreneur is where it's at these days. Give yourself choices, make your own opportunity if it's not there out in the workforce. Create your own. I did.
Definitely. And I am very interested because I'm sure you have 100 stories of success stories.
Oh yeah. You want me to tell more?
Sure, we'd love to hear more.
I guess Michael, he's like a gentle giant. But Michael, oh, nobody could clean better than Michael. And it's important to know that I also advocate for them. I think any employer needs to stand behind their employees. And, there are exceptions. But I always, told them that, they will be interfacing with clients. We do, because we're a cleaning company, we do clean on the weekends, at night. But sometimes, you will come into contact with our client base. And for the most part, everybody just, when they hired us to be a cleaning company, they did so because they wanted to be a part of something bigger than them. They like the idea of hiring people with autism. When they pay a cleaning company, it's not just to clean. And so we develop relationships. And so, Michael, he would talk to himself. And sometimes he would repeat things that he heard that aren't appropriate, you know. And so, some people can't get past that, and it scares some people, to be honest. And so they wanted me to bring somebody else in and, relinquish Michael of his duties. And I wouldn't do it because I told him, I said, there is no one. Michael, I don't have anybody that would do it any better than Michael. And so I stood behind him and I would try to help Michael understand. And he did understand, but it just was so impulsive. It just part of, and he would be talking, which didn't bother me at all. And I said, Michael, he would catch himself, but, it's just, I mean, he was just a joy to be around. And he had to leave because he went to another city that it was too far for him to travel. He went to live with his dad. But Michael, I can tell you, his aunt found me on the internet. She was searching for companies that hire people with autism. And she came across me and she called me and Michael came to work for us. And he just blossomed. He came out of his shell. His communication skills were improving. And I would put Michael, I did not hesitate to put Michael on a job by himself and know that once it would be done right. It might take him twice as long to do that job, but he understood that and he was okay with that. But that's just one story. And then we got Austin, who is still working for Blue Jay. I think he's going into his 6th year now. And, not I think Austin pretty much stays because he still feels safe. Not all of them are ready to, or will they ever be, venture out. But maybe, you know. And Sean, he cleans a dentist's office, and he's my nonverbal one. And he's still there at that dentist's office. That gets him up in the morning. That gives him purpose. And he can sing beautifully. He used to be in a rock band, and he would play the drums. He was the lead singer, and he used to, I don't know if he still does, but plays the cymbals for our local orchestra here in town. They're just amazing, and and there's opportunity for them. And I just want them to be able to reach that at whatever that looks like, at the level, whatever that looks like for each one.
Like I said, I was really impressed with the business model and with the stories behind it, because a lot of the autistic stuff is like, oh, well, we're going to give you this job, but you're going to be here forever. They don't seem as entry-level jobs. And it does seem like you're seeing or saw Blue Jay as an entry level to prepare them for the workforce.
It became that. It was just solving a problem for me. I needed employees, and Blue Jay became a whole lot more than just a cleaning company.
And
And so we just, no,
I'm aware that there are some people who stay cleaning their whole lives and it's their career, and that's great for them. But I loved how you were mentoring these kids.
right. Right. It just came natural. It's just part of what we did.
And I think that part also drew me to the story, is this was just so natural for you that, no, we're just going to mentor these kids. And I'm saying kids because I'm in my 40s. So anyone in their 20s is a child.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And, the people who I have found to be my market, for the business in a box, the cleaning company itself that I started, I sold it in 2021. It developed into a business model that I packaged together. It's like a plan book, a manual on how to do what I did in your community. For the most part, it seems to be parents and special educators and people with autism themselves. And if you want to, and there's no shame. And I just find I want to make sure to spell this myth that I think that people with disabilities, cleaning is about all they can do. Well, what's wrong with that? I did it, and there's lots of people who have cleaning companies out there. That's a great place to start. It is, like you said, it's an entry-level job, to gain experience, to build your resume. And
that
my
entry level
market,
job, yeah, it could lead to owning an entire cleaning company.
that's exactly right. So you never know. I didn't start out when I did this in 2012. This wasn't my plan, but it has evolved into this, and I've just kind of watched it happen. And it's helped so many people. But I don't want it just to help the people in the Charlotte area. There's so many that it can help. Its potential is far reaching. And that's why I am invested to bring as much awareness as possible to the possibility of someone doing what I did. And I know that for some, taking a risk is not easy. I'm a natural risk taker. I just am. And I understand that. If you have someone that's already gone through the process, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I'll hold your hand through the whole process. What have you got to lose? It's worth checking into. And I
Hey,
need to say that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, where can people find all this information? I know we're going to put it in the description below, but
Okay. Our website is blue, BLUE, it's not hyphen, but it's bluejcleaningfranchise.com. Bluejcleaningfranchise.com. That's our website. And you can contact us through there. Now, the word franchise is in the domain name primarily because of SEO, but it's not a franchise. I do not get any royalties at all. This business in a box helps you to become your own business owner, a small business owner. You are the owner. Because I have a lot of passions, but one of my passions is for small business. I like to see small business grow. And so with that package, Amanda, comes not just, paper shredding is a good business. Small office cleaning, that's kind of our niche. And the reason I chose small office cleaning over, I just kind of found that niche is because, again, it matched my personality. I prefer to go to a small hardware store versus a big Lowe's or Home Depot. And for those on the spectrum, it becomes more manageable too. It would become too overwhelming. Cleaning houses, residential, is a no-go. It's not enough of the same thing. It's too much. Everybody's got knickknacks. It's just too overwhelming. So I found early on that that's not a good match. So I've refined and fine-tuned over the years and developed the package. And there are not just paper shredding and small office cleaning, but 4 other possible services that can be offered to a client beyond those 2. So the possibilities are endless that would fit very well with people on the spectrum and go under the umbrella of cleaning. Now, this I didn't mention in the first pre-interview, but this is very important too. At the same time that I was going through my trauma in my business, a friend she is almost like a chemist. She's a creator of different types of businesses. She's got a very successful energy bar that she promotes and sells for over 20 years. She was developing a cleaner, an eco-friendly cleaner. And so Blue Jay was her, what do you call it? We tried it out. We tried it out for her. And it became the Blue Jay cleaner because I didn't know until after the fact that certain smells can trigger behaviors in people with autism.
oh yeah.
And this cleaner, because I wanted to be eco-friendly, this cleaner is nice and the guys love it. They call it the Blue Jay cleaner. Where's our Blue Jay cleaner? And they loved it. So we also offer that as part of the package. We have our own cleaner. So everything just came together, Amanda, and it's just everything made sense.
The amount of people who don't know the smells trigger and fluorescent lights are the bane of everyone's existence because they make noise. I guess they don't to neurotypical people, but fluorescent lights make noise.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, but that's one of the things we've been trying to fundraise for the new studio space is we're getting rid of all the fluorescent lights because all of us who are autistic are like, that is driving us bonkers. It's our space. Those go.
Right.
What did you want to say, kiddo?
It's 45 minutes in. It's 11
Oh, yes.
o'clock.
She's really good at keeping me on time.
I am hungry.
Has it been an
And
hour
it's-
already?
it's-
Wow.
It's
Cool.
45 minutes,
It
but
is
she gives
nearly
but we started a little late.
11:59. I haven't had lunch. I'm hungry.
She is
It's
very good at
past
telling me
lunchtime.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We would love to have you back on the program to talk more in the next few months, if you don't mind.
No, I'd be honored.
We will definitely put this out there because I think there is definitely one small business or small offices I have worked in. I'm trying to find anyone to come do your cleaning is like hell on wheels.
Right. And to find someone who would be consistent. And that is what the autistic people did for me. They brought me consistency, and that was the difference.
I'm kind of wondering if you could do something like this for dance studios, because that's another one where trying to find professionals to come in and clean is almost impossible. And
We
most
had a
of,
dance studio client.
yeah, see, dear guys in Colorado Springs, you could do that. Because they're all like, we can't find someone to come clean. I'm like, because people just think the clients are too small for them.
And see, that was the thing. That fit. And I had someone to tell me when I first started, well, you think there's a market for it? Yes. Yes, there is a market for it. And we don't compete with the larger, bigger cleaning companies, because they really don't like the small guys, but we do.
The larger cleaning companies, the studio we're looking at, because we need specific things, is going to be 14 to 24,000 feet, which is way outside what you're talking about.
Mm.
But most dance studios, are like 2,000 feet. You're not worth it for most of the commercial cleaning companies. You're just not a big enough account.
And see, that's where my experience comes in handy, is because I know who our client base is. I know who you need to target.
That is what I love about this. Well, Janet, is there, outside of the website, is there anywhere else they can find you on social media?
Yeah, we're Blue Jay Cleaning. We're Blue Jay Cleaning Business in a Box is what we call the company. I'm Blue Jay Consulting, and Blue Jay Cleaning Business in a Box is under that. And the consulting part comes in when you buy a business in a box, and my consulting services come with it. Can I leave a telephone number?
Oh, you can definitely leave that. And we will make sure that's in the description below too.
All right, 704 589 3148. So that's Blue Jay Cleaning Business in a Box, Facebook. And we're on Instagram too. And bluejaycleaningfranchise.com is our website. Yep, that's us.
We will leave all those links down below. Thanks for coming on the program today, Janet. I really enjoyed talking to you, hearing the success stories, and learning all about Blue Jay Cleaning.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Letta. Is it
Say
Letta
thank you.
or Lita?
It's
Letta or Lita?
Lita. It's a very old
Lita.
family name.
Okay, thank you. This is
Good luck.
and
You're
that's the
welcome.
stuff.
Go eat. Go eat some lunch. Bye.
She's
Bye.
bye.
I go get lunch.
Yes.
Hello, thank you for watching the podcast, and please subscribe, and also look at that adorable paper. So if you want to subscribe for it, and also please leave a like, and don't forget, if you subscribe to our stuff, you won't miss any of our new podcast stuffies. And also, did you see that adorable paper? Don't you like it?
That's one thing that stands out about us, that we are a real business. We're a business for profit. This is not charity. If anything, we are a premium cleaning company and offer a premium cleaning service. And so therefore the standard is high, and my employees, regardless of who they are, they have to meet that. And I don't coddle. We do provide, I believe, an environment in which not just them, but especially them, feel safe We also mentor and help educate people on what autism is. If you've met one person, you've met one person.